Deputy Chairman of Reform UK, is here in the studio with us. I mean, he's there saying the Conservatives need to learn that when we all come together, we're a broad church. When we all march in the same direction, we do well, and Labour are cobbled together fighting over everything and can't be trusted. I mean, it's almost like reversing the truth, isn't it?
A broad church of shared principles. What does that mean? It's a contradiction in terms. A broad church has lots of different principles being applied within it. And that's what we've seen. We've seen a party which can't get its act together, a party which will promise everything in order to get elected and then do precisely nothing. And the idea that he should defend the government because it was domestic law that defeated Rwanda, not the ECHR, in my mind, makes it even worse. Domestic law is the remit of Parliament. And last time I looked, these lot have had a majority of 80 since 2019, and maybe down to 60-odd now. But they've had a majority. So how can it be domestic law that's brought this policy down, and for them to hang their hat on that quite proudly and simultaneously say that we must meet our international obligations, in other words, the abrogation of responsibility in Parliament and therefore an anti-democratic approach to the way that we govern our country. We must meet our international obligations under the treaty of the 46 nations or whatever it is that are part of the European Convention of Human Rights. No! What he has to do, what this government has to do, is recognise illegal migration must stop. They have all the authority that they need with their majority in order to pass whatever law they need to pass to make that happen, and then they need to make it happen. And as you rightly said, Alex, it's been 3 years, and we've just watched this problem continue.
Ben.
It's been 15, but since this government came to office, it's a complete joke.
And also, there was an inherent contradiction in what he said. The ECHR doesn't matter; it's merely advisory. It was good of Robert to come on.
It's not advisory.
Well, he says it's just advisory.
He's wrong.
So if we wanted to, we could overrule the plans. Well, if you don't overrule them, then you are obeying their laws. They're the ones who stopped that plane taking off. So when Suella Braverman and Dominic Cummings advised successive prime ministers, we have to leave the ECHR if you want any chance of stopping the boats, they all ignored her, and they ignored Dominic Cummings, and now they are at this situation. They are screwed.
I mean, one point of principle is that to stop the boats, actually all you need to do is to stop the boats.
Right. Turn them around.
You've got to turn them around. And what this government and every other government in Western liberal democracy seems to have been hijacked by is the notion that you can't actually physically try to enforce your borders. You have an international right, and in my mind, the government has a domestic legal obligation to the people of this country to stop the country being assaulted by illegal migrants seeking to enter it. What are we? We can't be a country if we don't have borders. It's a statement of the obvious. This government needs to grow back. Well, it's not going to grow back, but this government needs to get out. And the biggest threat to the Tory party, by the way, is not the Labour Party. The biggest threat to the Tory party is Reform UK. He's mentioned the Labour Party. We are going to take the Tories apart. They've done a splendid job taking themselves apart, but we are going to take the Tory party apart because they are not worthy of government. The last sensible minister that they had in cabinet was Suella. She stood for Brexit. 3 out of the 4 reasons that she resigned were effectively Brexit pledges that this government's broken. They've tacked completely away from that. They've put an arch Remainer in as foreign policy.
Outrageous.
One of his jobs is going to be to deal with the EU. So we know we're going to go back even closer to the EU. We never really got out. He's going to take us back even closer. And the notion that David Cameron, a man who set North Africa ablaze and the Middle East ablaze with his support of the Arab Spring in 2011, nearly brought Egypt to its knees, nearly brought Saudi to its knees, that this man, who was absolutely fast and loose with British military might in that region, destabilising all of it, can bring peace to Gaza. It's completely ridiculous. David Cameron shouldn't be anywhere near office. He resigned in ignominy because he lost the biggest a democratic...
Talking of his mistakes, that was his biggest mistake.
That was his biggest mistake.
Totally misjudged the British people.
Yeah,
we had Richard Dearlove, the former head of MI6, on a couple of days ago, and he worked with Cameron when he was Prime Minister. And in essence, what Mr. Dearlove told us was, I don't trust this guy's judgment. And I think a lot of us feel the same about David Cameron. He's just made mistake after mistake after mistake.
And let's not forget
and he's back in power. But let me ask you this, Ben. In reality, this Tory party, you know, the party of government, is absolutely split right down the middle at the moment with the Suella fans and the Rishi fans. It is dysfunctionally unravelling. This is a problem going forward. Yeah. Sunak is barely going to be able to do his job.
He was virtually a busted flush last week. He is now a completely busted flush. There's no coming back from this for Sunak. He will be toasted at the next election. And let me tell you, I can't wait. I'm apoplectic. It may come across in my voice. Yeah. You know, you watch these
calm
people.
Down, Bill. Calm down.
I know, but you watch these people. Solemnly, people vote for their government based on promises they make. People put their trust in government. They hope that their interests will be protected and promoted, and they get trounced. Left, right and centre. Then you have someone like Suella Braverman, whether you like her rhetoric or not, who's actually trying to deliver the manifesto pledges, and they sack her.
But you know why I think her letter last night resonated so much? You know, we can't definitively say that, but everything you read that she said about him, you know, you're weak, you're not a leader, you break your promises, you don't seem to have any convictions, you're standoffish, you're a technocrat, you're a manager. Everything in that letter, we all read it and went, yeah, that sounds about right. I think he's been nailed, he's been rumbled.
Oh, he really has. I mean, the great shame with Suella is that she didn't resign. Because...
Yeah, she could have called it resignation letter. It technically wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you know...
Fired.
And if he turned his back, as he did, on all those major pledges that she said she had from him, including the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, which is very dear to my heart, the retained EU law bill, we've still got all the basic EU laws on our statute books. If he'd turned his back on that, as he did, she should have resigned. The Windsor Framework is the cementing in of the Irish Sea border and the giving away of Northern Ireland to a foreign power. And that, for me, it doesn't seem to exercise many people's minds in Great Britain, but that, for me, is the single most damaging thing that Boris Johnson and now Sunak have done. I can't... And, you know, if you're prepared to partition your own country, you're surely going to let the country down in every other respect because you're not a man of principle. You're not a person who's going to deliver in the national interest. So when that Irish Sea border went in, we all knew, you knew, Alex, because you were part of the Brexit party in those days, we knew that this government is not going to deliver the Brexit that they promised.
Been a part of a lot for a lot of days, me. Do you know what I should be a part of? I should just, like, pull a couple of pints, put some peanuts in a bowl, let you two get on with it.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry.
Anyway...